Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And my guest today is Kelli Shagla. Kelli is from Pennsylvania. And so, Kelli, first, I want to welcome you to the show and then ask you if you'd share a little bit about yourself so my audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Kelli Shagla. I live in Pennsylvania, right on the New York State border. I live with my husband. We did have a house full of 3 children up until just recently. Now they're all grown adults. I have 2 girls that are 22 and a 20-year-old son. 2 of the 3 of them have raced in some aspect. My husband races an econo mod weekly. I race a 212 Predator go-kart, and basically my whole family has done this my entire life. So it's just something that we do as a family and really enjoy it.
Yeah. So you're really a racing family.
Absolutely.
Only one of them didn't get the racing gene, but you know what? That's okay. You need somebody to take care of the food and all the stuff, right?
She likes it. She just never wanted to do it.
Okay. All right. So Kelli, tell me first, how did you get started?
So, about 3 years ago, halfway through the summer, I had been going to watch my brother and my nephew at our local go-kart track, which is just about 5 minutes from the house. And I go watch them whenever I can in anything they race. And it started to look like fun. It had never looked like anything I had wanted to do in my life. The kids were getting older. I was kind of lost. They could all drive. They didn't need me as much anymore. And my dad actually had a go-kart sitting in the shop, ready to rip for years. And so I asked him, can I try and take that out next week and see if it's something I like? So then if we want to buy one, we'll buy one. Absolutely. So I went out and I stunk. I stunk. I happened to pick the worst week to go. It was a morning show and then again a night show. I didn't spin out. I stayed out of everybody's way, but I was slow and I did not know what I was doing. So then I proceeded to race about 2 or 3 more times and the season was over. And at that point, the bug had bit me. Didn't care I stunk. I wanted to try it. Mm-hmm. I'm very much a person that if somebody tells me I can't do something, or if I am not up to par at something, you better believe I'm going to get there quick.
Uh-huh.
So I parked my dad's cart for the winter, and it actually handed in my lap was a pretty near brand new whole racing outfit. My cousin was getting out of it, and we offered him a good price, and he took it, and home came my current go-kart. So wow. I really only raced 2 full seasons, and I have gotten progressively better. But a lot of that is the help from my brother and my nephew, and of course my husband, his help in the garage and getting me ready. Um, a lot of it I can help him do.
Yeah.
Some of it I don't know how, but he does. So he does a lot of that part.
Uh-huh.
And I've just started racing Fridays and Saturdays for the last 2 years and getting laps under my belt, and have gotten much better.
So Kelli, can I ask you, and if you don't want to share, it's okay, but how old were you when you started then?
So I was 39 that summer that I just ran a few times.
Okay. So
So
the reason I ask you that is because sometimes women think, oh, I'm too old, and they're 30 or 25, or, it's like all these kids have started when they were 4 or 5 years old. And here I am. Why do I think I can start when I'm 39 years old? It's because you're looking to have fun. You're not out there for a career or any of that. You're just looking to have something to do that's fun. Your family's a big racing family and you want to be a part of it. And all of a sudden something clicked, didn't it, Kelli? And it was
it did.
like, oh, I think I might want to do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looked like a really good time. Everybody was laughing, having a good time for the most part.
Yeah.
Motorsports does bring out the best in most of us and
Most
some of
of
the
us. Yes.
worst.
Yes.
But yeah, it just looked like something I wanted to try. So I did, and I ended up falling in love with it. So here I am moving into my third full season. And again, I'll race Fridays and Saturdays, and just
Yeah.
keep going until I do feel like I am too old, but right now I
Yeah.
don't. So
Well, and for what you're racing, I don't know that, I mean, it's going to be a long time because you can
yeah.
race that for a long time.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are afternoons where after I've finished on a Saturday, I feel like somebody beat me.
Yeah.
You have, you're so close to the ground and
Hmm.
bumping, and um it
Yeah.
does take a toll on you, but so far not enough to make me want to quit.
Yeah. So what did your kids think?
My son actually at that time was racing in a stock car series, and so he thought it was really cool. My one daughter was still racing. She raced a 450 quad. She raced in Pennsylvania and Ohio mainly, against mostly men, and
Hmm.
she was good. And so if my husband couldn't be with me, then my dad would tow me and get me up to the track because he would have to be with her, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, so they thought that was cool. My other daughter thought it was cool. Um, and they support me. And they still support me.
Good.
So they were on board with whatever mom thought she needed to do at that time. I think they all thought I was having a midlife crisis, but I think that they figured out that maybe it wasn't. It was really something I wanted to get
Hmm.
into. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fun. I love your story because, um, like I said, a lot of times, and 39 is young, believe me. I'm 69, so I can tell you that with all knowledge of that. But it's still, it's kind of something different that you don't start at when you're older. And why don't people start whenever, just like your situation, the kids are gone, you have time to do something now for you. Why not? Right?
I think it scares a lot of people. Not just that, but anything new scares a
Yeah,
lot of people. When
it does.
get to your late 30s, it's hard to start a new
Yeah.
hobby.
But, you know, when that first time you went had to be just totally overwhelming, even though you were familiar with racing and the flags. And, there's a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't already know that you knew, but that had to be just like scary and overwhelming. And then it's like, no, I'm going back. I like it.
Yeah, moving into year number 3, I still get an upset stomach. I get the nerves as we're pushing me up to the lineup grid. And it does not go away until I've made probably one complete lap under green.
Yeah.
And then I'm just focused.
Right.
That's my thing. I see ahead of myself, like anything above in front of me. I'm focused on getting by those people, as most racers are, but trying to find the best line that I can to move forward. Sometimes I'm a hothead, and
Really?
my husband laughs at me. He says, I don't have to worry about any. You can take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your daughter could be racing at one track and with your husband, and you could be racing at a different track, and then your son could probably be racing at a different track.
Yeah. So basically now it's just me and my husband. My son, he raced in the Rush series for 3 years and or 2 years, and then we moved him up to a street stock car. We moved him up a class, which he raced 1 year, and then last summer he gave us our beautiful new granddaughter. So
Oh.
our grandparents now, and so he's decided to take a little bit of time off, just to be present and spend as much time with his daughter as he can. And as my husband and I know, raising 3 children and being a legitimate every weekend racing team their entire lives, it is hard. And so we give him kudos for that.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like we'll probably see him again. He misses it. Once you do it, it's hard to walk away.
Yeah, it is.
But
good for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him kudos too, Kelli, because a lot of men wouldn't do that. They would just keep racing. So good for him.
He's a good guy. But then my daughter that raced the 4-wheelers, she took a couple pretty scary wrecks the last season she raced. And she won touring series in New York or in PA and Ohio. She won points championships. She potentially she's one of the best I've seen female riders in the tri-state area. And she was getting ready to go to college, and she had a nasty spill, and it scared us and it scared her. So she decided to take the rest of the summer off, and then she went to college, and now she owns a home, and she's working and doing her thing, and she still has her quad and hops on it from time to time, but I don't know if she'll have a full season in her, but we might see her back on a motocross track somewhere in the near future or in the future. And that's fine. If that's what she chooses to do, we support, whatever decision. But at that time, that was what was best for her. So she took a little step down for a little bit too, as well.
Well, and you know what? They get to that age right there where your daughter was. And not talking even about the accidents. They get to that age, they go to college, and then, they've moved out and they go to college. They have their independence. They get a job, and they decide they want to buy a house, and then they probably get a dog or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, that was that part of my life. That was a season. Now this is my next season. And so, that's kind of a normal thing. Now some do keep racing, but probably as many don't. And so it's called growing up, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. We do have a local motocross track that is where she started, and it's about 10 minutes from the house. And they run open practices on a couple nights a week, and they have, I think, 4 2-day shows a summer. And they used to be a weekly track, but they're retirement age, and they're getting ready to scale down. So she has the opportunity that she can go and do
Yeah.
whatever she feels. So, and if that's what she wants to do, we'll support that.
Right. So, what was your biggest challenge when you started racing?
It was just figuring it out, getting over my fears. It's nerve-wracking not knowing what you're doing. I mean, I can stand at the fence and tell you what you're doing wrong because I've been doing it my
So do a
entire.
lot of other people.
But once you're behind the wheel, whether it's a go-kart or a full-size car, it's a completely different situation, and it's different
Yeah.
feeling. So like I said, I had my brother who actually he builds he's a Phantom race chassis distributor, and he owns a business called Cartworks, and he's pretty much in New York, PA, and Ohio. He's who you go to if you want a winning season, a winning team. And he started that when my nephew, who's now going to be 21, was 4. And my nephew started racing, and he immediately was, you could tell, definitely just naturally talented.
Yeah.
And over the years, he's raced just about everything go-kart can possibly offer. And now he's in a 305 full-size sprint. So
Okay.
he moved up. My brother was a sprint car racer, which he started when he was about 15 or 16. He was a motocross racer and decided he wanted to buy a sprint car, which he was very successful in the classes that he ran. But then decided to start following my nephew. So I've been around it for many, many years, but they're telling me, you got to trace the black. You don't go in the bottom. They're telling me what they found to be successful for them and how to get your speed, because the class I'm in is just a stock class. And they're trying to help me and teach me my tire prep and what I need to know. And I'm thinking to myself, just let me make it.
Yeah.
Full race. So that's intimidating too, because I would get frustrated because he would immediately meet me and tell me that I did something wrong, and I'd get defensive. Like I just did,
Well, and Kelli, you've got to learn. I mean, you can't be expected to go out on that track and do everything right or do anything right. Come on, and so, but these guys, they always want to fix it, don't they?
Yeah, they want, those men. And I get it. They wanted me to be successful, and I appreciate that. Now I just ignore him and walk away if if he, doesn't like what I did or whatever. I just pretty much ignore him. But I figured out what works for me. And I do not like to bump. I do not like to drive you dirty. I do not. And part of that, I don't know. I don't like to mess up my pretty cart. I do not, if I can pass you and avoid touching you at all, that's the route I'm going to take, whether it be the bottom or the top. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It probably has cost me some races, because if I'd have just moved the person in front of me, I probably would have won. But I don't want to race that way. No. And I don't like being raced that way. And as a woman, unfortunately, I am.
Yeah.
But it's
I was going to ask you that. So how are you treated at the track?
So most of the guys that I race, because I do predominantly race the men, most of the guys I race are okay. There is always a few. I have one in particular that he
doesn't want you out there.
He does not like to lose to me, and that's okay. I get it. But
Yeah.
I also don't like, you know, being manhandled for no
Or pushed
reason.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm very strong-willed. So
Good.
if it's an issue, I let them know, please do not
Yeah.
do that. And sometimes they don't like that. Um but the track I race at on Friday nights, it's a little bit smaller and totally different than daytime racing on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this last year, the top three in the points were three women.
Oh, that's
And,
awesome.
yeah. So one of them being my 14-year-old niece.
Okay.
And so when I say it runs deep through the family, it runs deep.
Yeah.
I also have another nephew who is 9, and he raced quite a bit when he was younger, like 5, 6, 7, and then now he's involved in different sports, so
Yeah.
he races when he can.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely, we all as a family participate and do it. This last summer, my dad, he's your age,
Yeah.
and he decided that he wanted to get in his kart again for the first time in 10 years. So he
See,
raced me.
you've encouraged him to get back in it.
Yeah, we had a good time. He's fun to race. But
Yeah.
he raced with me just a few times this last summer, just a couple of night races. And we really had a good time. And he was so proud. He beat me.
Oh.
He beat me. And he says, "Yes, I knew it. I could beat you." And I said, "Well, Dad, my clutch burned up." So
Oh, there you
I
go.
was like, "But you did beat me, and I'm proud of you."
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's his. I think if he races more this year, that's going to be his goal, is to just beat me, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm losing to my dad.
No, not at all. That's fun for sure.
So
So, when you first started and you said you were terrible and whatever, did you ever think right off the bat, "Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I'm not going to do it." Or were you like you said, you're a little stubborn. "No, I'm going to figure this out."
no, that's me. I needed to figure it out. I do not like to be subpar in anything in
Okay.
my I'm a little OCD about that. So only racing a couple times, it was hard to gauge how the following season was going to be. And I think I had a lot of doubters. I know I had a lot of doubters that didn't think that I was ever really going to get to where I have a long ways to go. I am not
Yeah.
the best. I just am figuring it out still.
Yeah.
But I am night and day from where I was that first half a season that I raced.
Sure.
Um, and when I started winning, then it started to click more, like, okay, this is this. So then it just made me want to get better even more.
Yeah.
At no point after that first couple of times I raced that end of that season did I think, I am not going to do this again. We immediately, after we returned my dad's go-kart for the winter, we immediately started looking for something, or planning on buying a brand new one from my brother. But like I said, then my cousin decided to,
Yeah.
to sell. So I just bought his, because I knew, number one, it wasn't bent. It was
Yeah.
good.
Safe.
Everything that came with it was top of the line. And so I was lucky on that aspect that we were able to do that. A lot of people cannot.
Right.
But we always try to make sure that we have, the best of what we need,
Yeah.
so that we're safe and competitive.
Right. So most of the time, so let me ask you this: at the tracks you race at, is it age division, or it's the kind of cart you run? How do you Do you
It's
compete against adults, kids? Who is it? I mean, is it a
so
mixture?
it's a mix in my class, both tracks, because it is a stock motor, that both the tracks I race at, you basically take the governor out of the engine. I said motor, it's an engine. You take the governor out, and that's basically all you can do.
Yeah.
And so when you start younger, there's a squirts class, which is like a 79cc Predator engine. Then you move up into the plated class. So there's a couple of different colored plated classes that children only,
Yeah.
that's how you get started. But as you start to reach the age out period of those plated classes, like I have a 15-year-old nephew who is moving up from the blue plate clone class now to the adult
Yeah.
325. So as you age out, then you start to move in, and that's when things get combined.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I
I
figured. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have basically most of my classes adults, but there is like my 14-year-old niece. And I think this year at the one track, I do have a young man that's moving up from a plated class into our class. And then there's one other younger, I mean, he's like 14 or 15 at the other track that I race, but
Okay.
mainly it's men and then me.
Yeah. So there's not hardly any other women racing.
Yeah, the Friday night track, like I said, had 3 women. We're top 3 in the points. The third place woman, actually, I went to high school with her, but she's just a couple years older than I am, and she was a rookie this year too.
Okay.
And that's another thing. You don't have to win every week.
Mm-mm.
To finish in the point standings or even win. You have to be consistent and show
Right.
up and do the work. And that's
Yeah.
the key to anything motorsports, consistency and the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could win a couple races and then do terrible or not show up.
Yeah.
And
And I
so,
still have
yeah.
days like that. I blew up 2 engines this year. So,
Oh,
which actually cost me a points championship this year, but it's okay. Like I knew going into this season I was going to have a granddaughter and I was going to miss a couple of races because of that. So I knew my Saturday track I was not going to win the points. And the gentleman that won the points he's been racing since he was 4. He races clone and predator, and he's hard to beat. He's good.
yeah.
So every week on Saturdays, that's my goal. I want to, if I can't beat him, I want to be right behind him,
Yeah.
because then you're doing something right. And most of the time that's how it was. I did beat him a couple of times, and the rest of the season I finished behind him, which is a hard pill to swallow. But that's how you learn. You learn from
Yeah.
following somebody that's better than you.
Sure.
Just
Absolutely.
watching. So
What's your favorite thing about doing this?
I just enjoy the family time. I have what I call my girl gang. I have a cart that stands out. There's in life, I'm pretty plain. Um, in racing, I'm the furthest thing from it. My first year, my son actually was like, "Hey, mom, I know you wanted to do glitter on your cart, but what would you think about maybe leopard?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Hey, let's do it." And the guy that does my wraps, does all the wraps on all of our cars. He was like, "Yeah, I think I can do that." And he came up with a beauty. And I actually won the best of show in the go-kart division at a mall show we do.
nice.
So then last year I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to one up myself because I'm never satisfied. And I decided to go hot pink and safety yellow leopard.
Nice.
And some people really enjoyed it, and some people thought it was tacky. And my brother, being one of those people, he hates it. But I love it. And I have a group of probably 10 little girls, and they
Oh,
are most of them race, and some of them are the siblings. And I literally will stop what I'm doing to go watch them. The minute I pull into the track, I get hugs. I
oh.
love these girls, and I love to empower female
Hmm.
racing. Um, they have turned into just such special little people to me. And their parents are great. So I've really gathered a following. And I enjoy that. So I'm hoping
Wow.
that either we'll add a few more and see if we can get more girls out there in the
Yeah.
sport.
I
And
love that, Kelly, that you've got all those little girls.
yeah, and even if
That's kind
I
of like Kelly's clan or something, you
yeah,
know. It's like,
even if I lose, they are immediately right there to high five me, hug me, tell me I did a good job. Like these girls can make you feel just so good.
yeah.
They are just amazing little people, and they range from like 12 or 13 down to 3. So
Oh,
there's quite an age difference in between them. So I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, maybe in a few years, my granddaughter
yeah.
will want to follow in my footsteps and find it something that she wants to do. And I hope that she has somebody to look up to if I'm not still
Hmm.
racing. I hope she has somebody like that to look up to, so that she knows that it's not just a man's
Yeah.
sport.
So, one of the questions is, are you a mentor to anyone? Or sometimes if it's a younger girl, I'll ask her if she has a mentor. And you just answered that question because those little girls see someone older than them who's racing and having a good time, and they want to be that person. They want to be doing this when they're 39 or 59 or 69 or however old, right? And so that's what you've become for those little girls.
Well, and I was lucky enough to have a person that I looked up to, and it was my mom. My mom started racing in the 80s, late 80s. And she was good. And it was kind of a fluke to find out. My dad raced at that time, and he did very well. And back then it was a spectator class. Everybody, you go to
Yeah.
the junkyard, you pull out a car, throw a motor in it, and go. And I think I get this from my parents, but my dad always had a beautiful car. And I'll remember Sunday mornings, um, he was out there washing it, and we were painting white in the tire letters on there, and then the tires black, so that it always looked amazing. And my dad did very well in the big cars. And it happened to be kind of a fluke. My mom picked she was like a pick a winner to race a house car, and the bug bit her. And
Oh,
her and my dad raced against each other in a husband and wife duo, like a little grudge match. And again, she loved it. And so then they started building cars for her as well. And after they divorced, then my stepdad continued building cars for my mom. And at first, my mom raced against the men in the late 80s. And then in the early 90s, they started a women's class. And
okay.
she won many, many, many track track championships and races. They had a track here and then Erie, Pennsylvania, which we race at too, that she would race Saturdays and Sundays. And then somebody put her in a car that owned it, and she just had to start showing up, and she finished out. She was very accomplished and she was very good. And girls loved her too when I was little. And men probably not so much.
Right. Especially back then.
Yeah. And it just turned into something. That's how we kind of got involved. My brother and I were there for our whole lives. That was what we did. My grandpa raced in the 50s and 60s, and it ended up turning out to be, he actually raced for my husband's grandpa.
Oh my God.
So we've found, a few pictures of them together, and they're both, they're both gone now, but that's a nice little thing to have.
It really is. And I love the generations, we started to talk about you and your kids, and now we're back to grandpas. And it I don't know if people believe that it gets in your blood, or hereditary or whatever, but I do think you learn what you live. So if you're around it and you're exposed to it, you're more likely to follow in those footsteps and love it than someone who's never been around it. And yet
Correct.
I talk to women all the time who, maybe went to a track with a friend, or it's all kinds of ways that they get exposed to it. But your way is a great way to have all those memories.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough that my husband, his dad, my father-in-law, actually raced at the same time as both my parents, and they were friends. So we've all been connected in in a way. So it's kind of now just trickling down through the younger generations. So we're happy about that, because motorsports is slowly dying down, and it's cost, and it's video games, and it's a lot of things. And so our goal is, if there's a young person interested, we try to just make sure that it's something that they are exposed to and know that it's cool. It is a cool hobby to have.
Right. And the fact that it's, in some ways, motorsports is dying in some areas, in some types of motorsports, and yet there's other people I talk to and where they live, and I think a lot of it has to do, like, Pennsylvania is a hotbed for racing, but I think a lot depends where you live, and the economy in your area and all those things enter into whether a track can stay open. And if we can't keep our tracks open, then we can't expose kids to motorsports. And that's a sad thing.
We were worried this year. Our local track in Bustine, New York, State Line Speedway, is literally 5 minutes from my driveway. And they race 6 classes weekly, and they get a huge turnout of cars, and have for years. Their owners were getting older, and so they were looking to sell. So it was for sale all last winter. And a gentleman came in and bought it, and he's adding classes, like special classes, every so often. So this will actually be the first year in a couple of years that my husband is going to be able to race at our local track twice.
Oh, that's awesome.
My nephew in his sprint car will be there once, which normally I have to travel 3-4 hours to watch him.
I love that somebody comes in with excitement and they want to grow it.
We were a little nervous, because if they don't race at least one race at that track where it is and in that town, the law is you have to get one event in or else it closes and you can't open it back up. So they wouldn't have ever let that happen, that family. They're a racing family, so they would have never done that. But it was a little nerve-wracking until the very end, and thankfully somebody did step up and buy it. So the go-kart track is in the parking lot that I race at on Saturday morning, and then the big track, right beside. So that will remain in place for this season. So we were happy.
Yes.
But generally on Saturdays, we're traveling to Sharon Speedway, which is a couple hour haul for us. My husband races at Hummingbird Speedway, which is the opposite direction. And that is a couple hour haul for us each way. And then we, of course, drive an hour to Erie, Pennsylvania on Sunday to race that track. So, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things for us to drive. Feels like it's in our backyard,
Right.
So we try to support as many tracks as we can that have our class. And that's the way you do it. That's how you keep racetracks in business by supporting, not beating
Absolutely.
them.
I always tell everybody I'm so spoiled because I have so many tracks within an hour or just a hair more of me. Probably, if I drew a circle 2 hours around, I probably have a dozen tracks, different kinds of tracks. A dirt track, US 131 Motorsports Park is a very well-known drag strip. Lots of asphalt circle tracks. And so, I'm spoiled. And if you think about it as a fan, Kelly, you could probably draw a circle 2 hours around and have almost as many because there's so many tracks in Pennsylvania.
There's several, and we have lost a couple tracks within that 2 to 3 hour span distance. But there's another that's an hour away. That's just like a little bull ring track that is actually my son started in I lied to you. He actually started in a front wheel drive.
Okay.
His class. And I sold the car halfway through the season because I said he was doing well. And I said, under no circumstances is he going to stay. And it's a great class.
Yeah, it is.
It gives you bad habits. And I knew that at some point he was going to want to move up.
Yeah.
So my husband and I made that decision for him halfway through the season. Yeah. But without that track, we wouldn't have known that it was even something that he was remotely good at or interested in.
Yeah.
That track just sold. So thankfully they're going to open again this year. And that's kind of this time of year what you look at, what tracks are going to open and what ones aren't.
Right. Look at the schedules and kind of make your plan for sure.
Yeah.
So Kelly, how do you use social media? Do you share about what you do? And if so, where could somebody follow you?
Sometimes I post stuff on TikTok, but clearly that's going away, I think, on Sunday. I do not do a lot with Instagram, but I am on Facebook, and I do post periodically. I try to not, I like, but there is plenty of me on my Facebook, my husband,
and it's just under your name.
Yeah, just Kelli Shagla. We have a really awesome track photographer and social media, Nelly Productions, and he takes the best pictures. And he just started a social media plan that he will do press releases about your week wherever you are. So
good for him. That's a great idea.
He's phenomenal. Nelly Productions. He will periodically he'll give me some love on his page. And I just think that there's a lot of people that post on their Facebook page, so I do a lot of sharing of their stuff. But yeah, I'm not
That's
big
okay.
on social media.
All right. That's all right. Not a problem. Not a problem. I mean, it's everybody has to do what's best for them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, Kelli, I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to share?
No, I just appreciate this opportunity, and it
Oh,
was talking
absolutely.
to you. It's nice to have somebody that, you know, looks for women in this sport, because there's several women in my area, and um, I just think that they don't know that this type of thing is available.
Yeah.
They're doing the same things as I am, just maybe in a different capacity, some of them, and I think it's great to
Well, I
acknowledge
appreciate
are
that.
here.
I appreciate that. And you know what I love? I love meeting new people and women that love racing. And I had somebody say to me, well, because I had somebody say to me one time, and it wasn't anybody I knew very well, said, well, who have you interviewed? Like in a kind of a snotty way.
Yeah.
And I said, what? Or no, she said, who famous have you interviewed? And I said to her, well, I've interviewed some well-known women in motorsports. I said, but I love the stories of all the women, and everybody has a story, and everybody's story is different. And if you don't like, I probably recorded in the last 3 weeks, I've probably recorded 25 podcast episodes because I'm
Good.
really ramping up my podcast
Yeah.
this year.
Good.
And not one of them is the same. Now they
A little
may have
different.
gotten, yeah, they may have gotten encouraged by their grandpa or their dad or whoever, but every story is different and every story deserves to be told. And I just love sharing those stories. And that's why I do this. And so, your story today, I haven't talked to anybody that's had so many people in their family racing, nephews, nieces, husbands, kids, grandpas, and your story's great. And I love sharing it. And that's why I do it, because I just love that. So
Well,
that's
we
kind of,
appreciate that you're doing it.
I appreciate that. Well, Kelli, I'm going to let you go for today. If
Okay.
I'm going to end the recording, but if you hang on after for just a second, I got a couple questions for you, and then
Okay.
we'll go about our weekend, won't we?
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.